welcome back to the Marriage Sherpa YouTube channel. And this week we are talking about expectations. Now, I was actually really excited to plan out this video and write down some thoughts and feelings on it because I don't know about you guys, but when I first got married, I was riddled with expectations of what life looked like and what marriage looked like. And I'll be honest with you guys and completely transparent, even to today, I still have some of those lingering expectations that I find myself having, and I have to shut it down. And that's just real talk. Okay? But I think it's kind of funny because the world that we live in, especially as little girls, I don't know if it's the same for guys, for these, I'm going to break it down, guys and girls. But as far as little girls, we're bombarded with fairy tales. And as we grow up, we're met with like The Bachelor or romantic comedies or novels or even as something as silly, and I've actually been paying attention to this more and more lately, country songs. And not just country songs, but those ones are the worst, but a lot of music today sets up expectations of what a relationship looks like. And no matter how hard we try, we're going to fail, both of us. Like, the guys are never going to live up to a country song. They're never going to be that guy because that guy wrote that country song for somebody else, not for us. But it's easy to fall into the trap where we feel like it's about us. Am I right? So they all set us up for relationship failure. Now, guys, here's the ones that guys fall into the trap of. Porn, fairy tales again, action movies, high school and college relationships, all of these set men up for failure. So let me kind of break theirs down a little more because I feel like as a society, we expect women to come into relationships with these expectations because of the stuff that they've seen or witnessed, but they don't expect guys to come into the relationship with too much expectations. But if you think about it, a lot of men's expectations coming into marriage revolve around sex and the seductiveness, sultriness of that person. And if we're all going to be honest, which I hope we are, ladies, a lot of times in the courting phases, we portray that person that we think our guys want us to be or want to be with. But, hold on, guys, you're not off the hook either. You do the same thing too. You're romantic, you plan extravagant dates, you lavish us with gifts and compliments, and that kind of ends too once the reality hits that we're in a relationship for the long run. So we have all these things that are interjecting into our lives, these theories of expectations of what love and what a marriage and what a relationship actually looks like. When in all actuality, no two relationships are ever going to look the exact same. And so even a relationship that you had previous to the relationship you're in now is going to look completely different than what you have. So even that aspect of bringing in past relationships into our new ones set us up for failure because of the expectation of what we think is going to happen with it, whether it be good or bad. So, I actually came up with this, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. I might be. I was going to say expectations are like buttholes. We all have them, and they all stink, but I feel like that one's been overused just a tad. So I went a different way. I said expectations are like in-laws. We all have them once we get married. And they can either be encouraging or destructive and frustrating. So let me break that down and explain it for a second. I do believe that there are expectations that are healthy for our relationship, and I'll get into those a little bit later, but I do feel like there are some that are constructive. However, most of the time, the ones we come into, the ones like I said before of how we get them, those ones are destructive and limiting. They're actually going to rob us of our joy and our happiness in our marriage instead of push us further and encourage us. So most of the time, we're not even going to realize we brought these in. They're all subconscious. They got implanted in our brain when we watched Snow White and the prince came and saved her from her life of despair and servitude to 8 other little tiny men. And we lock it away and think this is what true love and true actual connection looks like. When in all reality, we are locking in a false reality of an expectation we're going to impose on our future partner. And when you put it like that, it doesn't really sound fair, does it? So most likely that's where they're hiding, and they can be triggered at any time by anything. Let's take that Snow White example, for instance. Say you're at home and he comes home and you have had a day, okay? We've all had a day where you just need a personal day to sit in your bed, watch Netflix, watch reruns of Friends for the 17th time. I don't care what it is, but you needed a day. And he comes home and sees that the house isn't clean. Now, in your mind, you go back to that Snow White thing and you're like, I just needed a day. How dare he think that I'm supposed to clean this big old mansion of ours. No, nobody has a mansion. And I can't have a personal day. You're going to have the expectation of that he's just going to be totally cool and okay with you taking that personal day. And he also has the expectation of, you're home all day. Why isn't the house clean? So we all bring these expectations in. They can all be triggered by something. The key to all of this is how do we eliminate unhealthy expectations without dumbing down or watering down our relationship? Because again, I have been in the space where I'm like, fine, I just don't expect anything of you and you don't expect anything of me. And this is how our relationship looks. We're basically 2 people cohabitating. Cohabitating. And that's what we are. The problem with that is it doesn't feel very good. It's not a loving, enduring, romantic, passionate relationship, which I think at the core of us, all of us want. So we have to be able to recognize our expectations when they're bubbling up to the surface and quietly remove them from our subconscious and go, I'm not going to allow this to dictate what my relationship looks like anymore. I'm going to dictate what my relationship looks like by putting in acts, by putting in effort, by being present, and by giving intention to my relationship. So I came up with a 4-step process. There's 4 steps. 4-step process to how to eliminate unhealthy expectations. The first one is we all need to realize that we're responsible for our own thoughts and feelings. It's very easy when I'm in a bad mood to blame anybody and everybody else. I can blame it on my kid. I can blame it on the weather. I can blame it on traffic. I can blame it on something somebody said to me at the grocery store. And most definitely, 9 times out of 10, I can blame Jason. But at the end of the day, it does not matter what anyone does, says to me. I am responsible for how I respond and how I feel in that moment. Now, I'm not saying that you don't have the right to be hurt or you don't have the right to be disappointed by something that somebody you love does. I'm just saying that you can let that in. You can take ownership of this is how I feel right now, and then you can let it go. I know it sounds like stupid simple, but really to put it into practice in those moments is so hard. And I, for one, can tell you it is not an easy task. But I guarantee that if you start to have this self-realization moments in those times, you're going to find that it becomes easier and easier, and you're going to be a more joyful, happy person in your relationship because of it. Number 2, and this one's a big one. Do not compare your relationship to anybody else's, whether it be fictional, whether it be in a song, whether it be your friends, whether it be your parents, whether it be past relationships. There is no room for comparison in your current relationship. All you're going to do is set your current relationship up for failure if you're constantly holding it accountable to any other relationship you've ever seen before. Trust me, this is not a healthy way to do things. Now, that's not to say there aren't things that you can admire in other relationships, but don't hold them hostage for yours. Don't try and fit them in. Don't make them be something that they're not. A relationship is two people, and you are one of those two people. So you need another person to be on board with you when you're trying to come up with new ways or new thoughts and ideas about your relationship. So, no comparison. Number 3, communicate with your partner about them. If you're having expectations and you are realizing that they're unrealistic, or they're struggling because they know they're not meeting something of yours that you think they should be, communicate with your partner about it. It's your partner. You're supposed to have love and communication with them. So talk it out with them. Help them understand, number 1, why you have the expectation, and number 2, come up with ways to fix it. Okay? And then number 4, which is the hardest one of all, is be like Elsa and let them go. Okay? You don't need them. They're not going to help your relationship get stronger in the long run. Okay? There are things that will help your relationship get stronger. Expectations aren't one of them. So try your hardest to let them go. And this may take a while, especially if you have a lot. So don't be surprised if you fail. Okay? I give you 100% guaranteed that you're going to fail, but keep at it and you will succeed. Okay, so last thing I want to go over before I wrap this up in a nice little present with a bow is recognizing and encouraging healthy expectations. So I talked about this at the beginning. I was going to let you know that there are some healthy expectations that you can have in a relationship, and these to me are non-negotiables. So if you're in a relationship and you're going through this checklist and you're like, damn, I got none of these, you need to reevaluate your relationships. You need to have crucial conversations, or you need to get out, okay? All right. So the first one is affection. At some level, there has to be mutual affection. That is a very healthy thing for you to expect out of a relationship. Kind of a no-brainer, okay? If there's no affection, how are you connecting? I know people can connect on deeper levels, spiritual levels, intellectual levels, but you kind of have to have affection too, okay? The number 2 one is respect. Always. You always have to have a mutual respect for your partner. If there's no respect, there's really no grounds for mutual, the rest of this. You can't not respect somebody and be in a functioning, healthy relationship. It's not gonna work. And some of you may say, well, I've lost respect for him. That's fine. Build it back up. And hopefully he is taking the steps, he or she, not to pigeonhole anybody, he or she is taking the steps to rebuild that respect or that trust. So that's another one, is honesty and trust. That's another thing that is also a non-negotiable, because that is something that is basically the foundation of any strong relationship, honesty and trust. Again, if it's been broken, hopefully that person is doing the things to start instilling them back in you. The fourth thing is intimacy. This kind of goes along with affection, and I get that some of us may not desire it or be as with it, but there has to be some sort of intimacy that's happening in your relationship. That's a normal expectation to have. And then the last one is communication at some basic level. That is a normal expectations to have. Those 5 or 6 or however many there were. Those, I think, go hand in hand with what a relationship is. The other ones, those ones that you feel like you've seen emulated somewhere, somehow, maybe not as healthy. So it's important to be able to recognize the unhealthy ones, the ones that are causing you to go crazy, the ones that are causing tension in your marriage, and the ones that are also the building blocks of your marriage. You want to grow those ones, and you want to get rid of the other ones. So let me know in the comments what kind of expectations you brought into your marriage and how it has negatively impacted your relationship and how you're going to work on letting them go. So I look forward to hearing all your answers. Thanks again, guys, for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye.